When the noise of the world becomes unbearable, stepping away isn't madness, it's survival. Today, you'll discover why the hermit's silence is wiser than the system's euphoria. Stay with me until the end to understand when disconnecting is the only way to remain human. When everything around you begins to rot from the root, stepping away isn't a cowardly choice. It's the only dignified response. The world shouts productivity, success, validation, performance. It pushes you to be available, up to date, visible, useful, but there is no freedom in that noise. Only constant repetition of imposed roles, absurd demands, and suffocating norms. The hermit doesn't withdraw out of contempt for the world. They leave because they can no longer lie to themselves. There comes a moment when awareness strikes like lightning. Staying here is betraying yourself. Withdrawal isn't always physical. Sometimes it's mental, emotional, existential. Some remain present in the city but have turned off the channel. They no longer participate in the spectacle. They become spectators instead of performers. They don't fight to fit in. They no longer wish to play the game. They stop competing, commenting, feigning interest. There's nothing heroic in resisting a structure that devours you. The truly radical act is rejecting it at the root. The modern system wants you exhausted, distracted, addicted to dopamine, convinced that producing, accumulating, and proving yourself is everything. But some no longer crave likes, goals, or recognition. Some have surrendered. Yes, but not from defeat. From fierce clarity, this isn't theirs. They weren't born to be cogs in a sick machine. They were born to remember what it means to be alive. Stepping away is a profoundly lucid act. When what surrounds us cannot be transformed, the only possible action is distance. Not out of resignation, but dignity. The modern hermit doesn't flee. They withdraw to protect what remains of themselves. Because staying amidst falsity and overstimulation is a slow form of spiritual suicide. And for some, that is simply unacceptable. Isolation isn't always a cabin in the woods. Sometimes it's an apartment where no one calls, a profile without posts, a quiet renunciation of social codes. We live so invaded by external demands that silence becomes a trench, a refuge where no one demands that you smile, agree, comment, or please. In that emptiness, something raw, something real begins to emerge, the possibility of existing without owing the world anything. The hermit isn't a misanthrope. They don't hate others. They've just understood that constant contact, the endless flow of stimuli, and collective narcissism are making us lose the ability to be with ourselves. That's why they leave. Because staying would be self-betrayal. The figure of the hermit is neither a trend nor a romantic fantasy. It is a visceral response to structural decay. When power rests in the hands of the worst, when what is valuable is ridiculed and corruption applauded, fleeing is not cowardice, it is sanity. History is full of those who took that step. From Taoist sages to desert ascetics, all understood the same truth. Remaining in the midst of chaos changes nothing. It only consumes you. Retreat doesn't seek purity. It seeks silence. The chance to feel without interruption, to think without propaganda, to breathe without the weight of what should be. The hermit seeks no followers. They write no manifestos, lead no movements, present themselves as no model. They simply stop participating. That withdrawal is, in itself, a radical protest, a total refusal of the modern spectacle. Many believe stepping away is a luxury, but in reality, it's a risk. It means losing recognition, belonging, protection. It means living on the margins, where no one applauds, where certainties collapse, and only your mind remains as refuge or trial. That's why it's not for everyone. Not everyone is ready to face themselves without distraction. Those who step away do so not because they can't adapt. They do it because they refuse to adapt to a lie. They understand that the current system feeds on their energy, their time, their attention, and they've chosen to withhold that nourishment. Work that doesn't sustain, conversation that doesn't connect, consumption that doesn't satisfy. All becomes unnecessary when a more authentic life is possible. Some flee to the woods. Others dissolve into the city. They seek neither grandeur nor enlightenment. They seek not to betray themselves anymore, because continuing to feign normalcy amid absurdity is a form of accepted madness. And some refuse to pay that price. They prefer the discomfort of isolation to shared lies. The system needs you functioning, producing, believing everything depends on you. It convinces you that resting is guilt, withdrawing is defeat, saying no is selfish. But some no longer respond to that logic. They have disconnected. They follow no cause. They don't aim to save the world. They simply refuse to remain complicit. Stepping away becomes the only act of integrity possible, a silent affirmation that it is still possible to live without being possessed by the collective. In a world designed to keep you stimulated, reactive, and available, disappearing is revolutionary, not for the drama of absence, but for the courage of invisibility. Voluntary solitude is suspect. Those who withdraw unsettle because they don't produce, compete, or measure themselves. They become ungovernable, and for a system that sees you as a resource, that is a threat. The hermit doesn't become a myth for rarity, but for lucidity. They don't accept the rules of the game because they've seen behind the facade, the forced smiles of the workplace, the anxiety disguised as ambition, the empty hyperconnectivity. None of it is human. All of it is pretense, and they leave it behind, not out of superiority but honesty. Because continuing to feign well-being while everything crushes you inside is also self-betrayal. In their silence, the hermit reaches a truth impossible to hear amid noise. You don't need as much as you've been made to believe. You don't need to belong to a tribe, be visible at all times, or fill your schedule with goals to justify existence. It's enough to exist without demands. And that is what the system cannot tolerate. An existence that serves no purpose but its own. Even in the city, some become urban hermits. They live on the edge of discourse. They don't comment on social media. They don't seek belonging. They live in the shadows, not in sadness but in liberation. From there, they watch the world spin endlessly while they no longer spin with it. They don't search for what the masses value. They don't join the aimless race. Their act is not escape. It is cessation. Detachment is not a spiritual trend. It's an emotional necessity when everything becomes a transaction. When affection is currency, time is measured in output, even rest is regulated. Those who withdraw do so because they understand the trap. They can no longer inhabit it without deforming. Their body screams, their mind fatigues, their soul dims, and then they step away, quietly, without fanfare. From a distance, the world reveals itself differently. Collective anxiety appears for what it is, constant programming. The constant opinion loses urgency. News stops mattering. The noise subsides. The body breathes. The mind detoxes. And in that space, something begins to bloom that had been buried, the possibility of being without owing. In a world that demands your participation, the greatest act of freedom is withdrawal. If this video resonated with you, subscribe, like, share your experience in the comments, and tap the bell. We'll see you on the next journey toward the essential.